Geology is the science that studies the earth. And we all live on the earth, we all walk on it, and we use something from it every day. If it isn't grown, such as corn and wheat and soybeans, then it has to be mined. And in particular, the mining industry, of which there's a significant amount here in this area, has touched your life today.
The Ada area is wealthy with geological information, making it an excellent place to read up on the fascinating history of planet Earth. From ancient oceans, earthquakes, soaring mountains, and dinosaurs, to the sand, shale, dolomite, and limestone that fuel local industry, this area has always been a place where geology plays an interesting role in the evolution of life.
Well, the Earth as a whole, we think, is about 4.5 billion years old. That's billion with a B. And the Ada area is what is known in the time scale as Pennsylvanian in age, about 325 million, or about 7% of the age of the Earth. Pontotoc County and Ada has been above sea level.
There are two ancient natural events that make the Ada area so geologically rich. The first is the appearance of an enormous ancient ocean.
This land was covered by a huge inland sea several times. The sea advanced, the sea retreated, it left deposits behind. All of this material here is sedimentary rock. It was all precipitated and deposited from ancient oceans. But the last time the sea receded was about 325 million years ago, and we've been hard ground above sea level since that time. The fossils that we find are marine. That means they lived in the ocean. They are invertebrates, in that this land is so old that the vertebrates had not evolved yet. And there's a huge variety of them, and they're all over the county. We've got some of the finest fossil pits in the state. Several have been written up, and they are geologically famous. Here's a crinoid bulb. You can see some of the septa that separated the chambers. This one is not real well formed, but it is not complete. And here's the part right here where the stem was attached, and the stem came up from here. So this is most of a crinoid bulb, but you find them only in this age, only in this formation, and only several places in the continental United States. This is one of them.
Amazingly, the fruits of the ancient ocean continue to be harvested hundreds of millions of years later.
Sand at Rolfe, Alan Larsh's old mid-continent glass sand plant, now owned by Uniman, supplies sand for a wide variety of uses. The sand down there at the sulfur cutoff, then, technically in Johnson County, is just a little purer, and it is used to make things like eyeglasses, telescope lenses, optics. There's limestone all over the county, and the cement plant is located here because it's got limestone and shale. And you need three ingredients to make cement. You need limestone, shale, and sand. And you have all three in the area. It was just a real diverse, active geological part of the world where a number of different things were laid down out of these marine oceans.
The other main reason the Ada area is so geologically diverse is the rise and fall of the ancient nearby mountain range known in modern times as the Arbuckles.
Starting about 600 million years ago, when the fossil record first came into being, you have geological time units known as the Cambrian, the Ordovician, the Silurian, the Devonian, the Mississippian, the Pennsylvanian, where we live in Pontotoc County. Above that, the Permian. You've got 7 distinct stratigraphic time zones, but it's unique in that within 40 miles of where we are now seated, you can find all the stratigraphic time units that are important. And not everyone can do that. You can't go to the middle of Kansas and do that, or the middle of Missouri. So we, because of the Arbuckle Mountains down here, we have all of those features exposed on the surface. Mountains largely come up because tectonic plates crash into each other. And during Pennsylvanian time, about 325 million years ago, the Appalachians and the Arbuckles came up about the same time in different parts of what is now the continental United States. So actually the Arbuckles once were higher than the Rockies are now. They've just been eroded because they were sedimentary deposits. They weren't granite like the Rockies in Colorado. They eroded easily. The true roots of the Arbuckle Mountains are below the present-day city of Pauls Valley. But we are in the foothills of the Arbuckle Mountains, yes. Now think about it. If all these sediments were laid down flat, as they had to have been, if they were never tilted or they were never deformed in any way, you would always walk across the topmost, youngest sedimentary deposit, and it would never change. It would always look the same. So the very fact that we have had a lot of deformation down here accounts for a lot of our diversity. And so as you walk across flat Kansas up here, for the most part, you walk across the same strata at all times, and you don't notice the diversity until you drill or blast or go downward. Here it has been done for us. Nature exposed the stuff that was deposited down below, and we're free to see it. You notice that when you drive to the Arbuckles, they're not sharp and jagged like the Rocky Mountains, so they're heavily, heavily eroded, which sediment rock does. You know, it erodes all this goes back and goes to the sea and starts forming sediment somewhere else. So another couple million years from now, there will be a mountain chain somewhere else.
The geology of the Ada area is not only informative, but also profitable. The unique landscape left behind by the ocean and the mountains has proved beneficial to the local economy.
The Arbuckles, as I say, are sedimentary rock, and they were thrust up and eroded down. And we have, at some places in the Arbuckles, my oil friends tell me, we have as much as 30,000 feet of deposit. That, you know, from a sediment standpoint, that is a tremendous amount of sediment to be deposited in a basin. And we had, therefore, in 30,000 feet, you can have lots of things deposited. And then when you uplift them and fracture them and erode them, you expose them all. And they all become somehow economically significant to us. If you break it and smell it, you get a fresh break, it will smell like petroleum. You hear people talk about the Woodford, and all the formations, all these stratigraphic units are named. And the Woodford is probably the most famous. It outcrops on the surface. It's fairly radioactive. It's a shale. But at depth, at 6, 7, 8, 10,000 feet, when you encounter the Woodford, it is an excellent trap rock and an excellent source rock for petroleum. And of course, we know that one of the economic bases of Oklahoma is petroleum. And a great deal of it comes from the southern regions down here. Fitztown, the Fitz oil field is famous. There's oil field at Davis, of course, and Ardmore and the Kreiner Hills, and all of these places, and they all drill into these sedimentary formations and find oil. And it is big business. Aggregate is what you crush rock and put it on the road. You make road base material out of it, road bed, either county, or you chip it up and it goes into asphalt, or it goes into the concrete business, largely for road work. Aggregate's a big business too. We've got, as I say, the sand plant in Roth and in the sulfur cutoff. We mine limestone throughout the area. We mine chemical grade dolomite in Johnson County, just south of us. We've got granite, but we make granite monuments. We make ballast rock for the railroad. We make chemical dolomite, which goes into ag lime. It goes into glass. If you own a car, your windshield was made out of the dolomite mined just south of us. Almost guarantee it. There's only 2 or 3 pure chemical dolomite deposits in the United States, and one of them is just south of us. So it's got a large economic impact. I can't quote you gross national product value and money for the economic impact in the area, but it is significant.
With tremendously diverse geology comes speculation, much of it misguided and some of it downright foolish.
I don't know that the geology of this area has produced anything significant that caused anybody to rewrite a book. You know, there's been a number of people want to look and have tried to look for gold in the Arbuckle Mountains, but you don't look for gold in a sedimentary deposit. You should go to Colorado and find you a placer stream. But the number of people who've tried to look for gold down here is phenomenal. In fact, Ravia's got some good legends down there about people looking for gold down here again in Johnson County. But there is no significant gold to be found in this part of Oklahoma. Don't go looking for gold out here.
Another popular pursuit is the one for dinosaur remains.
Cambrian, Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian, Mississippian, Pennsylvanian, Permian. 7 time zones. I can find them all within 40 miles. But we go up from there, getting progressively younger. Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, made famous by Hollywood. That was the age of the dinosaurs. So notice the dinosaurs post-dated all of the land in Pontotoc County. This was above sea level and hard ground when the dinosaurs came and when they died. This was never a swamp. It was never below sea level. Some places down here along the Red River, as we border Texas, Idabel, places like that, yes, but not here in Pontotoc County. So I think the dinosaurs lived here, played here, died here, but they died on the surface. And therefore they were not fossilized because they weren't buried. They weren't buried without the presence of oxygen. They weren't buried quickly. They rotted and scavengers ate them. But I am convinced the dinosaurs lived here.
Ada's East Central University is home to one of the oldest living objects ever found in this area, the Calixylon tree, which is between 350 and 400 million years old.
The Calixylon tree here on campus was discovered in a hog lot in Clarita by a farmer. You seldom find a fossil of that size that's intact. But it came in pieces, and it was obvious where the pieces fitted together. And it has been cemented and mortared back together. It's a lot older than Pontotoc County. It's back down in the Devonian. It is not particularly agatized, so it doesn't shine a whole lot. And therefore, most people overlook it when they go collecting Calixylon. But you can find pieces of Calixylon all over, especially south of town. It's kind of a nondescript, dull, petrified tree, but it's one of the early trees. And the fact that we have this on campus as a big specimen of that is unique. Dr. White and some others of the Smithsonian put it on campus and had it dedicated and rebuilt because of its unique nature back in the 1930s.
The Ada area has been above water only 7% as long as the entire Earth has been in existence. In its relative youth, this area's geology remains very active and certainly will continue to change dramatically, yet gradually in the future.
We have lots of earthquakes in Oklahoma, especially under the old roots of the Arbuckle Mountains. Garvin County, to our west, is the earthquake capital of Oklahoma. And I think the Oklahoma Geological Survey will tell you that we have something like 600-700 earthquakes a year. Most of them so slight that you never notice them. There's a thing called the water cycle. There's a thing called the rock cycle. Rocks can be sedimented. They can be metamorphosed by heat and pressure, and they can be buried. They can be molted, and they can emerge as igneous rock, and then they begin to erode, and they become sedimentary rock, and it's all one big cycle. Oh, it reminds me that we're small and insignificant compared to the grander things, but and that we're here for just a flash, and that, as I say, some of this has been around a long time, and it just continues to be cycled.